Easy to work with sounds like praise until you notice what it predicts. In most offices, the phrase is a forecast. It tells you who gets overloaded next. Every workplace compliment carries a hidden instruction. Team player means available. Flexible means reschedulable. Easy to work with means this particular person absorbs demands without friction. And inside an organization, that description functions as a routing instruction. Extra work lays wherever the resistance is lowest. Managers learn the route. Coworkers learn the route. The system itself learns it fastest of all. None of this requires a villain. There is no meeting where leadership decides to exploit the agreeable. The process runs on something far more reliable than malice. It runs on learning. Every unconditional yes teaches the people around you what can be asked of you, and organizations never forget what they learn about cost. Expectations update through repeated behavior far more often than through meetings. The policy you currently live under was written by your own history of compliance. Cooperation itself is valuable. The person who communicates clearly, shares information, and works well across teams builds real career capital. The damage begins where cooperation loses its limits. A cooperative employee helps when helping makes sense. An accommodating employee helps whenever asked, regardless of what it costs them. And from the outside, the organization cannot tell these two people apart. It only sees availability. The penalty attaches to the absence of a stopping point rather than to the kindness itself. The trap opens with things too small to refuse. A quick favor, 20 minutes after hours, once. Covering a coworker through a rough week. One exception to save a struggling project. Each request is reasonable in isolation, which is exactly why the pattern stays invisible while it forms. Repetition converts favors into features. After the fourth time you fixed a presentation before the client call, fixing the presentation is your job. Nobody announced it, nobody negotiated it. Your behavior wrote a new job description, and you are the only person who never got to read it. The emotional arc on the other side follows a predictable sequence. First comes gratitude, and it feels good. Gratitude relaxes into preference, where people bring things to you specifically because you handle them well. Preference hardens into expectation, and the thank yous get shorter and then disappear, because nobody thanks the elevator for arriving. Expectation deepens into dependency, where entire workflows only function because you are standing inside them. The final stage arrives the first time you decline something, and the response is resentment, as if you took something away from them. In their accounting, you did. Work inside any organization flows like water toward whoever absorbs it with the least resistance, the reliable person, the calm person, the one least likely to complain. Call this the competence tax. Your reliability becomes a subsidy. It subsidizes the coworker who never learned the software. It subsidizes the manager who plans poorly because you always close the gap. It subsidizes understaffing because the numbers keep working as long as you keep bleeding into the margins. Look closely at what the dependable employee is actually doing, and a darker function appears. They are protecting the organization from the consequences of its own decisions. Understaffing should produce visible failure. It produces your unpaid overtime instead. Poor planning should embarrass the planner. You rescue the timeline before the embarrassment can land. Vague instructions should generate expensive mistakes. You translate them into workable tasks for free. Every rescue deletes a piece of feedback the system needed in order to fix itself, which means the most helpful person in the building is frequently the main reason nothing improves. Helping was only half of what you were doing. The other half was insulating management from reality. The cruelest feature of this arrangement is that its best work is invisible by definition. The angry client you calmed never became an escalation. The conflict you diffused never became an HR file. The mistake you caught at 9 at night never became a public failure. Prevention leaves no evidence. Leadership looks at your corner of the operation and sees smoothness, and smoothness reads as an easy job, and easy jobs receive modest budgets and modest raises. Being low maintenance compounds the problem. Organizations are alarm-driven, and money moves toward the loudest fire. The employee who never generates problems becomes the employee whose needs can always wait one more quarter, because waiting has never once produced a consequence. Organizations cannot distinguish between healthy capacity and silent suffering when both produce the same output. Your exhaustion generates no signal, and systems respond only to signals. You already know this person. They stay after everyone else is left. They serve as the backup for every vacation, the volunteer for meeting notes, the one who fixes the spreadsheet nobody else understands, the name that gets messaged at 5:47 with, "Can I steal you for 5 minutes?" Years of this earn a reputation and a title that never changes. Somewhere along the way, the accommodating employee also acquires a second unpaid role, then a third. Mediator between two managers who cannot stand each other, translator of the director's moods, office therapist, reassurance machine for anxious teammates before every review cycle, tension absorber in difficult meetings so the discomfort lands on nobody else. All of it becomes so expected that the one day you arrive without spare emotional capacity, people treat it as a personality change. They built their stability on yours and never noticed the foundation was a person. The part almost nobody wants to examine is that the arrangement pays the accommodating employee in a currency they crave. Every rescue delivers a small identity reward. I am needed. They trust me. This place would struggle without me. Being the dependable one becomes who you are, and people defend who they are long after it stops serving them. The exploitation is external, the attachment is internal, and the attachment is what keeps the yes coming. The agreeable also sabotage their own visibility. They share credit reflexively, fix things without mentioning it, and assume the work speaks for itself. The work has never once spoken for itself. Decisions about raises and promotions happen in rooms you are absent from, based on what the people in those rooms happen to remember, and they remember what was presented to them. An undocumented win belongs to whoever describes it first. Then the first real boundary detonates. You decline something you have absorbed 50 times, and the reaction is out of all proportion to the request. Understand this precisely. The anger is aimed at a loss. Your yes had been absorbed into their planning as a fixed resource, like the Wi-Fi. Free access, once normalized, registers as property, and people experience the withdrawal of property as theft, even when the property was your evenings. In that moment, the thought moving through their heads is that you have changed. Years of absorbed sacrifice never enter the calculation, which reveals something uncomfortable about how exploitation actually works. It rarely requires cruelty. After enough yeses, the people asking stop experiencing your yes as a sacrifice. A sacrifice repeated often enough becomes furniture. Dependability can even block the exit. Managers sometimes hesitate to promote the person holding everything together for a reason they would never write down. The promotion creates a vacancy they cannot easily fill. Being indispensable in your seat becomes the argument for keeping you in it. Meanwhile, promotions run on leadership perception, on who is seen discussing strategy and direction, and the person buried in execution rarely has the airtime to be perceived as anything else. The cycle tends to end the same way everywhere. Volunteer, over-deliver, receive praise, become expected, become overloaded, say nothing, wait for recognition, receive more work instead, burn out, disengage. When the disengagement finally arrives, the organization notices the one-drop task, never the 200 carried before it. When reliability becomes normal, people stop measuring what you carry. They only notice what you finally cannot. The uncomfortable half of this analysis is that the accommodating employee co-authors the arrangement. Every uncommunicated limit, every silent late night, every covered mistake, every avoided conversation teaches the system that the current price is acceptable. Expecting sacrifice to speak for itself is a bet that has never paid out in the history of employment, and continuing to place it is a decision. The corrections are procedural, unglamorous, and effective. Slow down your yes, because a yes delivered after consideration is priced differently than a yes delivered on reflex. Make trade-offs visible by asking, in writing, what should be deprioritized to make room for the new request, which returns the cost of the decision to the person creating it. Keep a running record of the invisible work and surface it in reviews as operational fact rather than complaint. Attach authority to responsibility, because responsibility without authority is liability with a better title. And allow some capacity problems to surface, because a system that never feels the shortage will never fund the fix. Being easy to communicate with, easy to trust, and easy to collaborate with builds careers. Being easy to overload, easy to underpay, easy to ignore, and easy to take for granted dismantles them. An organization will never protect a resource it has learned is free. The workplace rarely decides what your limits are. It accepts the ones you keep demonstrating, and everyone in the building has been shopping at the number you posted. Knowing all of this is one thing. Responding well while it is happening is another. The hardest part of this pattern is finding the right words in the moment. When your manager drops another quick favor, when a coworker slides their work toward your desk, when a boundary needs setting without burning the relationship down. The Workplace Response Kit was built for exactly those conversations. It is a collection of professional responses for the moments that determine whether you are respected or simply relied on. The link is in the description.